Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So because I haven't done a tour for a few weeks, I just thought I'd quickly show you around my greenhouse, the rubbish pile that it is. But the rocket's really run to seed now. As you can see, it's probably about 2 foot tall, but it's not going to waste. What I'm actually doing is I'm feeding this to the chickens now. The lettuce, etc., that I put in, to be honest with you, hasn't really come to much, so I've kind of give up with that, to be honest with you. But the plants, the trees that we planted the other week, we're not showing any sign of life yet, so fingers crossed they'll be alright. But I've been putting a little bit of water on them, not too much, but I've been keeping them watered. The plants that I brought into the greenhouse are starting to shoot. As you can see, the buds at the top of them are really starting to open, so they're coming back to life. And out of the 5 cuttings, I believe all 5 of them have actually taken. I've got a bit of sort of algae on the top of the soil there, which I need to take off, but apart from that, they're doing alright. And they're the Aquilegia plants. Sorry, no, they're not. The hydrangeas. I always make that mistake. I've got a blind spot with them. Hydrangeas. So that's what they are. The lavenders are starting to show a little bit of life. You can see here where the little shoots are starting to come through. Just get the camera in a bit closer. You can see where the shoots are coming through. And the rosemary is most certainly rooted. It's a little bit dry, so I need to give these a little teeny bit of water. At this time of year, you really don't want to be watering too much. Just give them just a little teeny bit. And there's an amazing aroma of coffee in here, because what I've been doing is I've been doing a bit of digging. And what I'm doing is, because I'm digging in a load of straw, I'm just putting some nitrogen with that. So one of these bags, I'm putting probably a third of that, so probably about half a pint of coffee on each row, which is probably about 3 yards wide. I'll show you in a moment where I'm digging. But so the nitrogen from that will obviously help the straw to break down, so when I put the potatoes in, it'll all be you know, sort of nicely rotted down and everything. But I've got plenty of coffee. This bin bag here is absolutely full of it. So courtesy of Costa Coffee, they were really kind to actually sort out. But as you can see, it's absolutely full of. Oh, the smell's really nice. It makes you want to eat it, to be honest with you. The plants down here, geraniums, are not doing too bad. I think what I will do actually is in the next couple of weeks is turn them upright and put them back in a pot and start them off again. I think it's probably warm enough now for them to sort of get going again. So just out here, obviously all the herbs have died back, and the dock leaf's still firing through. But I've noticed over the last few weeks we are getting some shoots coming through. That's the I don't know if you can see them, but they're the chives are coming through there, and the hollyhocks at the back are starting. The rosemary's as is, as it always is. The rest of the herbs, I'm a bit worried about the sage bush, to be honest with you, which is this one in the middle here. It's not really doing a lot, but as you can see on these jotterberry bushes, we're starting to get shoots, so the signs of spring are coming. They're really starting to come through. But water butts are full of water. We've had loads of rain in the last couple of weeks, as you probably more than aware, and all of that's come off this roof up here, and they've gone down into the water. But I have noticed that strip of wood has come off there, so I'll need to get up on there at some point and replace that. But as you can see here as well, the if you remember the chives that I planted last year, they're all starting to come through, so they're about kind of 2 inches tall now. So that's all starting to come. Plenty of raspberries coming through on the asparagus. Obviously the roots have come through here, and they started to come through. What I need to do is get down and pull them out so they don't start to take over. And I need to do a little bit of tidying up and weeding there, but it's not too bad. The weather vane's still standing, it's still there, and the other one that I made last year, they're still coming on now. I've been digging in loads of muck. There was a massive pile here earlier on. It was sort of, I don't know, about 4 foot high or so, and that's all gone into this bit over here, and this is where I've been putting the coffee. And the ground isn't ideal, to be honest with you. It's a bit sort of waterlogged and a bit sort of claggy. It's not really breaking up particularly well, as you can see. Well, that bit's just to show me up. That bit's actually breaking up now because it's been on the top and it's dried. I've not done any digging now for about an hour or so. I've been out and about, but as you can see, that's the coffee on the top. So what I've been doing is basically I'm putting probably about 2 forks worth of straw and muck and stuff along there, and then I'm putting about half a pint of coffee with that, and then I'll basically just by digging back about that far, what I'm doing is just turning that. I can't do it one-handed, but I'll just try and show you what I'm doing. I'm sort of turning that upside down, so just flick it with my foot like that on top of there, and just breaking that up on there, and then underneath the soil, then all of this straw will break down. So when I rotivate it in about a month or so's time, and well, perhaps I'm being a bit optimistic there, about 6 weeks to 2 months time before I put the potatoes in, it'll be nice and you know, full of organic matter for them to go. The spinach is still looking a bit sorry for itself, but there are some fresh leaves coming through, so hopefully if we don't get too much more frost, I'll be able to pick a bit of spinach in the next few weeks. I've actually noticed one of the chickens has laid a bloody egg in it. I don't know. Anyway, just quickly walking down here, the purple sprouting broccoli hasn't really done much yet. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've actually moved this tunnel over so I could dig this bit here. This bit here was what used to be inside this tunnel, and what I've done, I've moved it over, still keeping obviously the purple sprouting broccoli in there, but so I can get all that dug over. And as you can see, there is some purple sprouting forming there. I don't think that's going to be much good for eating, to be honest with you, so the chickens will probably end up with that one, but the others haven't really started to form yet. But what would be good actually is to put a bit of comfrey juice on that, so I might do that later on, just to try and bring them on a little bit. But it's early doors yet, to be honest with you. This down here, I've been looking to strengthen this tunnel, and what I'm doing is starting to get some metal together to make some additional braces. Like so, we got this one here. I'm going to make another one that runs along the top to try and hold it a bit better. Been getting loads of parsnips out, so I've only got sort of them few left there now, so we're almost out of parsnips. The water table's not been too bad down here. I've drained this drain out here. It's probably full again now, because we've had a reasonable amount of rain today. Yeah, that's full again. So that needs emptying. But so far this year, I've actually emptied that 5 times. So, and I think this time last year I probably emptied it about 10 times by now. So from a water point of view, I think we've had a reasonably dry winter so far. The chard is trying to throw some new leaves up, so you can tell there's a bit of warmth in the soil coming. I need to get the rest of them leeks eaten, to be honest with you. Now down this side here, I've been filling this trench up here. As you can see, the soil's collapsed here, but I've been filling that with all the kitchen scraps and waste and that, all the tops off the parsnips and the potato peelings, bananas. As you can see, there's plenty of banana skins in there. Having 3 kids, we get through quite a few bananas, so that's all good for the ground. So I've been putting all them in. Now that's probably about as much as I'll have in there. So what I'm likely to do in the next week or so is to bring all the soil back over and fill this trench up, and then I'll continue the trench down here and start filling that up for the rest of the beans. So that's just about as much compost as I'll probably put in there. I'll probably put another couple of buckets down there, but that's it. As I say, I resited this this tunnel, and this bit here is not gone back in quite right, so I need to faff about with that, probably get the welder to that in the next week or so when I get 5 minutes. But you can see here I've also put a little bit of this is the other side of where I've been digging, and I've actually sprinkled a bit of coffee on the top as well, just to try and boost the nitrogen. Now potatoes, which are all of this bit here from the raspberries there all the way down to probably somewhere about here, halfway through this tunnel, where the potatoes are going to go this year. Now potatoes don't really need nitrogen, and you're not really it's not particularly beneficial to put too much nitrogen on potatoes, because what it will do is it'll encourage them to grow a lot of tops, but the energy won't go into the making actual potatoes themselves. So but the nitrogen I've put on there, basically what I'm trying to do is to get this chicken manure and straw and everything to break down as quickly as possible, so when I come to rotivate all of this over, I can get the potatoes straight in. This will all be nice and rotted down. So I'm trying to kind of speed up the composting process, if you like. The strawberries have actually started to shoot. I've noticed in the last couple of days, so I don't know if you can see there. I'm just zooming if it'll let me. I've got some nice little fresh shoots coming up there, if it'll focus, on the strawberries, and there's a few little shoots all over really. There's some more over here, as you can see there's one there that's just starting to come through. So the strawberries are most certainly on the way. What I will need to do is get in there and just have a quick tidy up and get any other sort of dead leaves out. Obviously just before the start of the season I got in there and fetched all the dead out, and what I need to do is just get in there now when I get 5 minutes and just tidy it up a little bit further, get any other dead matter out. And what I will be doing on here is I need to, because these strawberries have been here, this will be the 3rd season that they've been here, so what I want to do this year most certainly is to feed the strawberries, and what I'll be doing is I'll be making comfrey liquid feed to put on here, because obviously I can't, because it's all covered in this mesh, I can't really sort of dig anything into the ground as such, unless I fetch the strawberries out and put them back in, which I don't really want to. So I'll be feeding this with a liquid feed that I make from the comfrey, which reminds me, in the next couple of weeks what I'll be doing is transplanting the comfrey, and what I'm going to do is put it here. I'm going to put it in this area here. Now the one thing you need to note about comfrey is it's got quite big fibrous roots which go down about 6 foot, but it's also quite herbaceous and it's quite intrusive. So what it will do is it'll try and grow out here and across there probably and take over all of this asparagus. So what I'm going to do is dig a trench out here and then go down about 2 foot or so, line it with plastic and then backfill back in to try and contain the comfrey just in that one area there, because obviously I don't need too much of it. But so that's what's coming up in the next week or so. The strawberries that I've got here, I've left them outside, but I will bring them into the greenhouse shortly. But what I'm going to be doing with them is any odd plants that don't come through from last year, I'll be bobbing in a fresh plant from over there. Those are just some that I took last year, so I'll bob them in wherever they're missing, and so I've got a complete set of strawberries on both sides again. So that's what the allotment looks like on the 21st of February.
Oh, somebody's pinched my neck. Oh, it's too cold.
Well, the chickens are doing pretty well. You can tell we're having a mild winter because we've got. Bearing in mind it's only the 21st of February. We've actually got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 eggs today out of 10 hens. So I really can't complain at that. But this time of year they're normally only producing 3 or 4 a day, but we're getting almost twice what we normally do for the time of year. So you can tell that we've not had much of a winter so far. Okay, so we're going to start talking about recycling more materials this week, and the first one I'd like to talk about is recycling jam jars. Now, because jam jars are quite a universal object, it gives you an airtight container, which is obviously watertight as well, so there's a whole raft of uses that you can use for it. And because they're made of glass as well, they don't react with anything, they're inert, so you can use them to store all sorts of poisons, fuels, oils, etc., where you couldn't potentially do that with a bottle like I explained last time. So what I've got is 22 ways of recycling a jam jar, which is useful in the garden. Obviously there are many more that, you know, sort of ways of recycling, but these are the ones that I've come up with and I've used in the past for recycling jam jars. So the first one is reasonably obvious, obviously a cloche. You can turn a jam jar upside down, and obviously a large jam jar is good. The Kindle jars are pretty good for doing this. And if you've got a particular plant in the garden, you can put a row of jam jars over the plants to act as a cloche. You need to be reasonably careful with this because there's no breathing hole in there, so what you need to do is make sure that there's plenty of sort of carbon dioxide within the jar for the plant to grow properly, so photosynthesis can occur. But a cloche is the first one. The second one is preserving things. Now obviously when you're making a lot of fruit, obviously when you've got an allotment, you tend to have gluts of sort of raspberries, strawberries, or all of your vegetables, etc. And what is really good, which augments the having an allotment, is making preserves and jams and stuff like that. And there's a load of things that you can make. Lemon curds are a really good one that you can make with if you grow your own lemons, or if you've got your own chickens, obviously, because there's eggs in there as well. Obviously pesto, all sorts of jams, pickles, chutneys, and there's a whole raft of chutneys that you can make, which are really nice to have on your sandwiches and stuff like that. And if you've got a glut of vegetables, beetroot, things like that, you can pickle them up and make all sorts of sort of tasty things to put on your sandwiches or just a side of your dinner. So a preserving jar. Second one is collecting seeds. Now, because a jam jar is airtight, you're going to get no sort of moisture or anything like that. So if you're storing seeds within your shed, they're ideal. Even if you go down to the shops and you buy packets of seeds, if you put them inside a jam jar and sort of tighten it up, there's going to be no moisture getting in there and damaging the seed. So they're really good for storing seeds. Also, if you're keeping seeds from last year, as you saw me last year, I was collecting lots of different seeds from all over the place. Jam jars are ideal for storing seeds over the winter because no moisture can get in there and cause mould and stuff and cause your seeds to go bad. So that's the third. Use for a jam jar. The fourth one is storing nuts, bolts and nails. Now, an ideal way of doing this is if you've got a shelf in your garage or in your shed or your greenhouse or whatever, and you've got various things that you want to store. What you do is you take the top off the jam jar and get a nail, knock a hole through or drill a hole through the lid, and then screw the lid on the underneath of the shelf, and then you put whatever you need in your jam jar, and then just put the jam jar onto the top and leave it, and then it'll obviously suspend itself underneath the shelf, so you can store a whole manner of things in this way. And it's really useful for things like nails, bolts and screws and that, because obviously they're metal. You don't want them to be wet because they'll go rusty if they're steel. So it's an ideal and really cheap way of storing your screws. And the other advantage as well is because the jam jar is glass, you can see exactly what's in it. So if you're trying to find a certain type of screw or bolt, you can wiggle on it. Oh, that's it. Take the jar down and away you go. Obviously don't drop them because obviously you'll break the jar, but that's the only drawback really. The next one is storing poisons, slug pellets and weed killer. The reason I've put this one in is I think it's a really good idea. If you've got children that come in your allotment with you, you've got grandchildren or your own children that are coming in. Things like if you've got any poisons, rat poison or anything like that, if you've had rat problems, or if you've got slug pellets, or if you've got weed killer or anything really you don't want to get your kids anywhere near, putting them into a jam jar and putting the lid on will stop the children getting at them. And obviously the other thing you do is obviously screw them again underneath a shelf or in a wooden beam within your shed. Put them up out of arm's reach and the children can't get to them. So obviously I've got there's some weed killer here. This is obviously a week, and obviously what I could do is I could put that inside a jam jar and then just sort of keep them out of the way. So that's another really useful and safe way of using a jam jar. The next one's a lime duster. Now if you get a jam jar, put your garden lime in there, because when you're spreading lime, typically you don't want to put too much because you can go overboard with lime. And the other thing as well is if you've had lime for a while in a bag, lime is hydroscopic. In other words, it'll take water from the air and it'll become cloggy and stuff like that. So two things: one, you want to keep it dry, so a jam jar's ideal. Secondly, you don't typically need a lot of lime. What you can keep in a reasonable sized jar is probably more than enough that you're going to use for a year. And secondly, what you can do is have a normal lid on there, keep it in your shed or your potting shed or your greenhouse or wherever, keep it nice and dry. And then when you come to put it on the ground, if you get another lid and put lots of holes in it, either drill them or again drive a nail through, what you can do is then put the lid on, and then you can shape it like a salt cellar or a pepper cellar, and you can just sprinkle that on the ground so you get a nice even coat of lime, so you don't get lumps of lime all over the ground. So that's a really good idea. The next one is a slug trap. Obviously you can bury the jam jar in the ground, put some beer in there to attract them in. Slugs will go in and drown in the beer. The next one is a brush cleaner. Now this is where you're using glass, because glass doesn't react with terps, white spirits, petrol or anything like that. So it's ideal if you use a plastic pot like a pot noodle pot or something like that. If you put white spirits in there, it'll dissolve. It'll all go sort of all over the place. But if you've got a glass jar, turpentine, and you can wash your brush. So if you're up your allotment or whatever, and you've been painting your fences or your metal structures or whatever with some paint, quick jam jar with some terps in there, and obviously you can clean your brush out, put the lid back on, and the terps won't evaporate. You can use it for next time. So that's another good use. Next one is a pea soaker. So before you put the peas in the ground, what a lot of people like to do is rather than put them into the ground dry like most people do, what you can do is soak the peas. So if you get a jam jar, half fill it with water and then put your peas in there. You can leave them in there overnight and the peas will soak up the water, and then when you put them in the ground they'll shoot all the quicker. So and you can obviously transport your peas from your home to your allotment or whatever in there, so you can use them as a pea soaker. Exactly the same thing with beans or anything like that you want to soak overnight before you get to your allotment. Put them in a jam jar, put some water in there, put the lid on, and then then you'll sort of they'll soak all the water up overnight, ready for you to put them into the ground the following day. The next one is a vase. Obviously if you've got a lot of flowers on your allotment, if you grow flowers, chrysanthemums or dahlias or whatever, you can use them as a vase. So obviously put some water in there and put your flowers in there, then it'll keep them fresh. The next thing is a mini bottle garden or a terrarium, which is basically where you take the lid of a jam jar and you put some plants on there and then put the jam jar over it and make like a little sort of garden inside, which is nice gift for somebody, or if you're if you're into that kind of thing, put them on a window, etc. The next one is a candle lantern. Now this is an ideal way and a very safe way of burning candles up your allotment, particularly if you're in a shed or something like that where you've got no electricity. If you've got a candle in a jam jar, it's safe. So if you can put a tea light in the bottom, light a tea light and put that in the bottom of a jam jar. Obviously the light will come out because it's glass and the candle's contained within the jam jar. And obviously if you want to put the candle out, just put the lid on the jam jar and the candle will go out because it'll be starved of oxygen. If you want to make a heater for a greenhouse, obviously you can use a jam jar with a candle inside the jam jar, and then the jam jar will heat up with a candle inside. Obviously put your pitcher pot over the top as well. So that's another use of a lantern. Also, if you're ever having a little party up your garden or up your allotment and you want to put some lights around, it's really nice to get a jam jar and put a candle inside it, wrap some wire around the top of the jam jar and twist it up so you can suspend it with wire, and then you can suspend that off a tree or any framework or anything like that you've got in your allotment to light up your allotment at night. So that's another nice way of using a jam jar. The next one is a string dispenser. Now this is a really good idea. I don't know if you've ever had the problem yourself, but if you've got, it's a very similar idea to what you've got here. So you've got a normal sort of ball of string, and obviously the the string comes out from the middle, so it unravels from the middle. Now, I don't know if you've ever had this, but when you start to get to the end of the roll, it all kind of collapses in on itself, and the string starts to knot and that. If you put that inside a jam jar, make a little hole in the lid, and then pull the string out from the top. If you drill the hole in the lid, this is the best way to do it. Pull your string out, then you can just pull the string out as you need it. And what you can actually do then is if you make like a hole with like a V cut in it as well, so the hole's actually like tear shaped, what you can do is pull the string out and it doesn't get ravelled up inside. And then if you pull it into the V, it'll actually cut the string for you. That's another really good idea for a jam jar. The next one is a paint mixer or storage. So if you want to paint something grey like I do, I don't know if you've noticed a lot of things in the allotment are grey, and what I've done is actually mix black and white paint together, because I had a lot of black paint and a lot of white paint, and I didn't want to paint it bleach white and I didn't want to paint it black. So all of the framework, the tunnel and everything else is painted grey, and all I did was basically got a jam jar, fill the jam jar part with white and a little bit of black, shake it all up, take the lid off, and obviously you can paint wherever you want. As soon as you finish painting, put the lid back on the jam jar, and then obviously that paint will stay nice and fresh in there for next time. So you can store paint and also mix paint in the jam jar, so that's really useful. The next one is an oil lamp. Now the way you do this is basically get a jam jar, make a hole in the top about probably about 6mm across. You need to drill the hole through, and then what you do basically is get yourself some wick, sort of 6mm wick, fill the jam jar with paraffin, and then put the wick down inside the jam jar with about ½ an inch of the wick sticking up above the jam jar, like that, and you've made yourself a little paraffin heater for your greenhouse. So if you've got a reasonably sort of large jam jar, you can actually make a paraffin heater which will probably go for about 3 or 4 days in your greenhouse and keep things warm. So if you're sort of going away on holiday and you don't have a paraffin heater, you can very quickly make one out of a piece of string basically and a jam jar, and obviously a bit of paraffin. The next one is a plant pot. Obviously you can plant a pot, put a plant inside the jam jar. The one thing you need to worry about is obviously there's no hole at the bottom, and glass is quite difficult to drill if you haven't got the right tools. So what you don't want to do is overwater it. So what I would suggest you do is put a little bit of gravel at the bottom, then put your earth on the top and put your plant in, and then as you're watering it, just watch that you don't put too much water in, and if there is too much, it'll go down to the bottom where the gravel is and it'll stay down out of the way. But you can make some quite nice plant pots out of that. What you can also do is paint the inside of the jam jar, so you're actually colouring it. So don't paint the outside, paint the inside, and then obviously you get a nice shiny finish on the outside, and you don't see all the dirt and stuff inside it, so that's quite nice. The next one is compost tub or a used tea bag recycler. What I'm suggesting here is, again, use a jam jar inside your kitchen, and then as you use up your scraps or you make any tea or anything like that, put your tea bags in there and use it as a recycling tub, and then obviously as it fills you can take it back up to your garden or your allotment and empty it onto your compost heap. So that's like a nice little way of using a jam jar. The next one is really nice, and I think most girls as the children will actually have a go at this, and that's making rose water. If you get a jam jar, put rose petals in there with some water and put the lid on and leave it for a few days, you'll make rose water out of the petals. Number 19 is a match container. Now this is a really good idea. If you've got paraffin heaters or candles or anything like that up your allotment, or even if you just have a bonfire in your allotment, if you keep matches in a box, apart from the fact the kids can get hold of them again, they will get damp, and the phosphor on the matches can get, the matches won't strike properly. So if you put the matches inside a jam jar and put the lid on, it'll keep them nice and dry, and so when you come to use them, they'll light properly, and away you go. So a match storing thing, and again, as in with the nuts and bolts and everything else and the poisons, you can put a hole through the lid and then put it up inside your greenhouse or in your shed, up out the way of children. So keeping your matches and things like that dry, is another good idea. The next one's a seed dispenser. Now if you want to sort of cast seed across the ground, it's not always the easiest thing to do. So obviously if you've got lots of seed and you're casting them, say if you're growing a lot of grasses or sort of anything like that, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, particularly if you've got arthritis in your hands and you can't grip things or pick things up easily. But if you get a jam jar and make some holes in the lid, not too big obviously because you don't want too many seeds to come out at a time, and then put your seeds in the jam jar, you can actually use that to sprinkle the seeds on the ground, and people with arthritis in the hands can most certainly grip and hold a jam jar better than they can, you know, a few tiny seeds in their hand. So that's an idea for somebody for, you know, sort of dispensing seeds onto the ground. The next one is a bird feeder, and what you can do is in the winter, what you can do is put seeds inside a jam jar, and sort of, if you put some fat in there as well, what you can do is turn it upside down and the birds will come and peck from the underneath. Or you can actually tie, like I said with the candles, tie some wire around or some string around the top and put it upright with some nuts and that inside. The only thing you need to worry about is obviously in the winter it could get some water in there and make the seeds wet. But if you sort of suspend that up in the tree, obviously where the cats can't get to, you know, the birds are more likely to go to that and take the seed and that, so you can make a little bird feeder out of it. And the next, the last one, which is number 22, is a sweet potato shooter. Now, I don't know if you've ever grown sweet potatoes, but what you need to do is to make your own slips, which are the shoots you put into the ground. What you do is you suspend a sweet potato in water, and basically the shoots come from the side of the sweet potato, and then you pull them off and put them in the ground. So a jam jar is ideal for that. Fill a jam jar with water almost to the top, and then put the sweet potato into the top of the jam jar, obviously not all the way in, so it's sitting on the rim of at the top of the jam jar, and then the slips will start to grow for your red potato, sweet potato. So that's 22 ways of recycling jam jars for the garden. So I'm afraid that's all we can squeeze in for another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. I do appreciate you watching, and I hope you found it informative and everything. If you've got any comments or any questions on anything that we've been discussing today, please do drop me a comment down, and I'll either answer it in next week's video or the week after, or I will respond to you through YouTube. But thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye now.